Tiffany Harrison, please call roll.
Good evening and welcome to the January 6, 2025 Planning and Zoning Open Session Meeting. Commissioners, please state present if in attendance. Commissioner Morales.
Present.
Commissioner Walker. Commissioner Jurasik.
Present.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Present.
Commissioner Carney. Commissioner Prager.
Present.
Vice Chair Smith.
Present.
Chair Krause.
Present.
For the record, a quorum is present with 7 commissioners in attendance. Commissioner Walker is not in attendance. Thank you.
Please join us for the invocation and pledge.
Join me, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you today, offering our thanks for another year. And thank you for bringing us together safely. We ask that you bless each person that is here today. And Father, as we prepare for this meeting, we ask that you be with us. May our thoughts be led by you and our conversations be inspired by you. Please grant us the wisdom and guidance in all that we do. Let it be pleasing to you. We give you all the thanks and all the honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now confirm the meeting agenda items. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion for approval as presented.
Meeting agenda items are approved by unanimous consent. Are there any public comments at this time? If so, please state your name, city of residence for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we will have a timer on the screen for your reference. Yes, sir.
I do.
Yes, sir. Please come.
My name is Ronnie Coleman. I'm at 9876 West State Highway 36, Temple. My question to you, the owners or the people that have this property, this RV park, is there going to be a privacy fence put all the way around this property? I'm on 20 acres. I'm behind his I'm in front of his, or I'm behind his property. And I would like to know if they're going to have a privacy fence. And I have some trees. 2 trees I need cut down. They're on his property. They're going to fall on my property or on my driveway. I don't have the resources to take these trees down. And I'm on Social Security right now. I'm a disabled vet. So I don't have no way of doing that. I just want to know if these people are going to take care of the problem before it gets even worse. And,
What's your address again, sir?
I'm sorry?
What's your address again? Up here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your address again?
It's 9876 West State Highway 36. I'm first mailbox on the right, but that's the only thing I have to say. And I want to know if it's going to be if they're going to address these issues.
So I can answer that. There is the requirement in the code for them to have a solid fence around the property. When we get to the presentation for this case, I'll draw attention to that during my presentation.
But what's the requirement for a buffer zone in between the fence line and the RV park?
There's not a defined measurement.
I mean, they can't go. They can go up to the property line itself.
They technically could, but I'm going to show you on the site plan. Once we get to there'll be a public hearing for this case. So I'll have a presentation for that.
Okay.
And then you can, if you want to, when we get to that point, show us where your property is in relation to that, and then we can discuss it.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's all I have. Thank
That's
you.
fine. That's the third item on our agenda, so we will get to that. No other comments at this time on the consent agendas, the approval of December 16th meeting minutes.
Okay, okay.
If there are no objections, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent items as presented.
Second,
May we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Morales,
aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carney.
Aye.
Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
Item 4 is approved by consent. We'll move on to item number 5. Hold a public hearing to discuss and recommend action on a rezoning request from agricultural to general retail on .04 plus or minus acres located in the SP Terry Survey, abstract number 812, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 2 Woodland Trail, Belton, Texas. The case will be presented by Principal Planner Jason Deckman.
All right, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. So the schedule for this case is on the screen. We'll go to council for first reading and public hearing on January 16th and second reading on February 6th. So as Mr. Chandler mentioned during the workshop, this is on West Adams, going out towards Temple Lake Park, west of the intersection with 2271. So this is out there a ways. And you can see on the aerial photo, the gray area city limits, the clear is what is still in the county or the ETJ. And on the aerial photo, you can see the existing building. If you drive by there today, you'd see that there's some new gas pumps there. Previously had been a gas station and convenience store. They're renovating it, bringing it back in. And I'll get to that. Let me not get ahead of myself. Really, we're here to clean up the zoning. As you can see on the inset here, there's currently GR for the majority of the property, but they do own a section here where their septic tank is. And we just want to clean up the zoning so that all of it is GR. So here's the survey giving you a little bit more detail of the boundaries and the fence, where the driveway is. It's 0.04 acres. It's part of that larger parcel adjacent. It was identified during an early request. They had come in and requested a CUP. They wanted to have a liquor store as well as the convenience store. They've since withdrawn that for their own reasons. They're not going to pursue the liquor sales and just have beer and wine, which in a convenience store, that's allowed by right in general retail. During the liquor store, it was really essential to have the GR because you cannot have a CUP for a liquor store in ag zoning. Similar to your question about the RV park. The ag zoning wouldn't support the CUP for a liquor store. So that's where the request originated. The applicant did have some challenges with the development. So he had asked us to pause the rezoning while he was deciding what to do with the liquor store license. Ultimately decided not to pursue that, but said, let's go ahead, clean up the zoning. I'm ready to move forward. So here we are. Since this came in, Belcad has adopted the property lines. If you look on Belcad today, it shows up as one parcel. So really what we're doing is cleaning up the zoning to match the property boundary for that convenience store. We do have some site photos. You can see some of the new asphalt and the building. Over here on the side, where the sign is, that's kind of part of that area. You've got the existing home. So that parcel to be rezoned is this strip back here off of the side. And then the veterans, the VFW hall that Brian mentioned directly to the south is right here adjacent. There's existing water to the property. Thoroughfare plan shows this as a community collector is Adams. Woodland Trail's not on the thoroughfare plan. Future land use shows it as residential neighborhood service, but it was already predominantly where the convenience store was already zoned GR. So to reiterate, we're cleaning this up. Have received 2 notices in agreement, one from the applicant And then one from Mr. AC Boston on some property right here. Those responses are in your packet. Had received no notices in disagreement, and the newspaper printed the notice on December 26th. Oh, my sharing stopped. Let's try that again. Thank you. So in terms of the compliance summary, it is compliant with future development plan, compatible with the surrounding uses. We showed you utilities, there's facilities available, they're on septic. And it's not in the neighborhood planning district, so that one gets an NA. And staff recommends approval of the requested rezoning from ag to general retail. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Commissioners, are there questions or comments?
No questions, comment. I drove past it on Sunday because I was walking my dog at Arrowhead, and place has been vacant for several years now, so it looks nice. Looks all cleaned up and excited for it to open.
This case requires a public hearing. We will now open the public hearing. If you wish to speak and are attending in person, please come to the podium. If you are viewing the meeting online, please virtually raise your hand, provide your full name and city of residence for the record. Limit comments to 3 minutes. We will have a timer on screen for your reference.
Anna Lyle, I live here in Chippewa. I just want to come up and show my ignorance. We're voting on something that has a Belton address,
That too.
It's in the Belton zip code.
but not the Belton
It's not in
city
Belton
limits.
city limits.
Okay,
If
Right at the line.
we could spend a whole day talking about zip codes and city limits, and this is gonna be a long enough meeting as it is.
I figure it just rolls up in the whole like ISD confusion. I'm Temple, but I'm Belton ISD.
Oh, that's
I go to
really
Belton
complicated.
ATP, like-
That really is complicated, so this one's not near.
It's all part of that general confusion.
Yeah.
You got it.
There's no other comments or questions. We will now close the public hearing. I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve FY 24-32 ZC as stated.
second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Rhodes and a second by Commissioner Carney to recommend approval of item 5 FY 24-32 ZC to the city council per staff recommendation. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carney, Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
We'll now move on to item number 6, FY 24-41 ZC. Hold a public hearing to consider and recommend action on a conditional use permit to allow a recreational vehicle park on 24.826 plus or minus acres located in the Maximo Moreno Survey. Abstract number 14, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, generally located north of State Highway 53 on the east side of Dairy Road and identified as Appraisal District ID 76141. The case will be presented by Principal Planner Jason Deckman.
All right, good evening again. This will follow the same schedule as I previously showed you, January 16th for the council first reading. We show it as property ID 76141. And you can see on the vicinity map, the location on Dairy Road. Undeveloped land doesn't get a true 911 address, so we identify those by the tax ID. So as you can see on the yellow boundary, the property, there was about 58 acres that was recently annexed. They've submitted this acreage for the CUP for the RV park. You see on the aerial photo that it's agricultural land all around. There's some dense trees along the creek across the road. And then I grabbed the screenshot from Google Earth. The photos on the ground, and I say this photographer didn't really do it justice to make it clear that these turn lanes, these striped markings showing the entrance to that property. Oh, we've got people trying to enter the standby. Good to go. So that aerial photo, using Google Earth, I think makes it a little bit more clear than the photos I'm going to show you in a little while. There we are. So this is that entrance. You can see the striping. This is looking south, going back towards Adams. This is standing in the entrance, looking across at those heavy trees, and then standing looking out across the field. Blue skies, probably not out there today with this cold weather, but it was a nice day for photos. So for the background of this one, it is governed by Chapter 31. The RV park standards that we talked about does require the CUP, which is why we're here. So in this case, they're proposing 144 spaces to be built in 2 phases. They've got 54 that would be pull-through sites, 86 that are back in. There's a maximum of 7 spaces per acre for Chapter 31. Their density works out to 5.8 spaces per acre, so they're underneath that density. The code requires certain facilities and amenities and open space for recreational area. So the recreational area is shown in the bright green, so that's shown on the edges here and here, as well as in the center. That's where they've got a clubhouse where the office will be. There's a covered pavilion for picnics, a splash pad, some games, playground for the kids. There's some additional parking as well. They do propose to be on septic, so their septic area is shown here in the stippled muted green. And then for drainage and flood control, their detention area is here shown in blue. So this is at the entrance facing where the creek is directly across the street. They've got a widened entrance coming in. To give you a more detailed view, again, showing the detention, the floodplain. You see the entrance has that kind of flared out, so there'd be the ability for those vehicles to make that wider turn. The blue shows where your dumpsters are going to be, so they'll have the ability, for our solid waste vehicles to pull straight up to the blue. There is a secondary entrance. If you remember the park on Loop 363, during discussions at council, there was an additional condition, concerns that if you have only one way in or out, then you could be bottlenecked and blocked in an emergency. In that development, there is the ability to add a secondary road. It's not as directly available here, but they have provided this lane when and if the property next door comes in for development, then that connection can be made. And then the exit in case of emergency could come out through whatever that development may be. We don't know what that might be just yet. We've got a detail showing the amenities at the pads. They've got a built-in fire pit and grill, trees. There's additional spacing, or excuse me, additional parking for the vehicles. So if you've got a towed vehicle, then you can disconnect, park your truck, be able to come and go as you please. 25 feet spacing between the pads. And they've provided the calculations to show that they've provided the 8% of open space, which is what Chapter 31 requires. They've exceeded that. You can see the totals here. They're providing 3.73 acres of open space total, which is more than the 1.9 acres that they would be required just based on the 24 acres. This one has a proposed community collector that runs kind of diagonally through the property. And if you look at it from this, very macro level at that scale, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have a collector running through the development. If you look at the larger map, when the comp plan was completed back in 2020, it starts to become, you understand the logic of Dairy Road kind of veers and meanders around, crosses over the creek a couple times. That maybe long range, we want a more direct connection collector road that would extend to the north. Now, if you've seen the site plan, you would recognize that there's not a way to have that collector go through. So there'll be a subdivision plat required with this. Couple outcomes that are possible here. One, the subdivision goes to council for an exception because they're not going to comply with the thoroughfare plan. Or two, the property to the south, or maybe one of the other properties to the north, come in for development, and we see that there's the possibility to realign that collector somewhere else in a way that makes sense. You know, that the city gets the connectivity that we want. The property owners have the ability to develop their property in the way they see fit. We can meet in the middle and do what makes sense that provides that connectivity and complies with the thoroughfare plan. So likelihood is there is a future thoroughfare plan amendment coming, but we would have to identify what that alignment is first before we bring it forward. Otherwise, we're just moving one line based on guesswork to another location based on guesswork. When an actual development comes in, then we would move that line a third time. So that really doesn't make sense. So we will kind of kick that can down the road when development comes in and we can find the best alignment in this area, then we'll move forward with that. And on the future land use map does show this is residential neighborhood service with a bit of corridor mixed use, and that's due to the proximity to State Highway 53. So we've done a fair bit of traffic analysis for this area. Trips generated by RV parks, they're a low traffic generator. I'll call your attention to, these are weekday PM peak hour trips. So that's your evening rush hour, such as it is on Dairy Road. The ITE tables from the Institute of Traffic Engineers don't show an average weekday volume for an RV park or a campground. So let's use comparable metrics. So I provided the PM peak hour trips for 3 different types of development. So an RV park could generate around 61 daily trips during that evening hour. Multifamily would be 85, and single family for the same number of units could generate up to 149 trips. Currently, the last count we had from TxDOT on Dairy Road was in 2020. They had 31 trips measured up here. East Adams or State Highway 53 carries 8,000 trips right near Dairy Road. As you get up towards the loop, the volumes go up a bit with 9,000 trips a day on the loop, 6,000 as you go in. So obviously traffic is starting to make choices and filter around different directions. I also looked at the crash history from 2019 to present, 80 crashes, and I selected the polygon based on the general area around Dairy Road, but also look at some comparable intersections or some nearby intersections, just to have some numbers to evaluate. 80 crashes in that big polygon that I drew, primarily there at the intersection with Loop 363. That's where your 2 main roads meet. You've got multiple conflict points with those ramps coming down, and that just results in more accidents. There was 1 fatality shown in red on that slight bend coming out of Adams. See 3 serious injury, 20 minor injury. And the common factors, most of them were speeding. 28 for speeding, 17 for distracted driving, and 7 were failure to yield right away at the stop sign. What we're not seeing is any crash patterns at all down Dairy Road, and I'd attribute that to just there's not a lot of traffic there. More traffic always means more crashes. The tool that I use to generate this, it's a new tool that we've got. The report's in your packet. One of the things I looked at earlier today as I'm getting familiar with it, it gives you a predictive tool based on past data. What would you expect? How many crashes per year are predicted? 5.5 crashes per year are predicted at the intersection with 363 and Adams. 0.7 crashes per year are predicted at the intersection of Dairy and State Highway 53. So the past data doesn't predict a lot of crashes. Now, that said, we've got a condition to address that because I think the addition of the RVs and the unique characteristics of those vehicles probably raises a concern. So as this comes in, we've got a condition for the applicant to continue coordinating with TxDOT. We showed you the turn lanes on the aerial photo that are right at the entrance. Are there improvements needed on State Highway 53? That's their roads that will defer to TxDOT, but we're going to require that coordination. We did send out 5 notices to adjacent property owners. 2 of those were in city limits and 3 were courtesy notices that were sent in the ETJ. We received 1 in agreement from the property owner kind of to the north, the property wraps around. Received 3 back in disagreement. This one here right across came in today. You have a printed copy of that response. That was the only one that was within the 200-foot radius. The others either saw the sign or became aware of it, reached out to staff, and then emailed their response in to state their disagreement. And they're over here in this residential development to the south. And again, the newspaper printed notice on December 26th. So conditional use permit does have conditions, and it's intended to evaluate, is this the right place for this use? We want to prevent a nuisance. We want to protect health, safety, and general welfare. And Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend and council may add additional conditions of approval. And council can revoke a conditional use permit if it becomes obvious that this is creating a nuisance, it's becoming a problem, and it requires a site development plan, which we've shown you. One of the requirements for conditional use permits that came out of the council workshops was to show the proximity to similar developments. In this case, the closest one is also the most recently approved. So this is the one up on Loop 363. So we've drawn some lines on the map as the crow flies, and as you would get there if you had to drive it, 0.9 miles straight line distance, 1.7 miles if you were to drive it. There's also the mobile home park off of East Young is shown in green on the map. And then the map on the right zoomed out shows pretty much all of the existing either mobile home parks or RV parks, or in red is the Corps of Engineer campgrounds. So this is a new thing. Certainly open to your feedback. Does this provide you the information? I'm going to ask council the same question. Which boils down to, do you like my map? Does it give you what you need to evaluate this case?
Certainly beneficial.
Yes, ma'am. So in terms of compliance, is it compatible with the neighborhood property? The answer is yes. We showed you the proximity map to help you come to that decision. Would not impede other development on properties. As far as adequate utilities or access or drainage, that's partial. This was recently annexed. One of the items that'll come out of that annexation, they're now able to extend the city water line to the property, but there's no city water out there right now. And the existing water main ends about 5,000 feet to the west over by 363. So are there adequate utilities as we speak right now? Not yet. But now that they've been annexed in, there's the possibility, it's feasible, it just may be expensive. Safe and convenient movement of traffic with the turn lanes and the coordination with TxDOT that will be required. There will be no odors, fumes, or dust that would be generated. Directional lighting is required through the code, and there's sufficient landscaping and screening. So the recommended conditions, it's compliance with the site plan that you've seen, requiring the park rules attached as Exhibit B. Those are in your packet. And the rules should include the limitations on the duration of stay. So we're going to have them add specific language that current code does not allow permanent stay. As we approve the amendments for the extended stays, then they can amend their rules to reflect that. Compliance with Chapter 31 does require the guest register and requires an 8-foot solid fence for the screening. The subdivision plan is required. During the subdivision plat review, part of that water capacity is also going to look at their fire safety, their hydrants. Will they have adequate pressure? We require the wider entrance at Dairy Road and the turn lanes, as you saw. An existing coordination, or you continue coordination with TxDOT for the State Highway 53 intersection will be one of the conditions. Requiring a plat note that references this ordinance, that we need to see the floor plan for the clubhouse, and that's for Chapter 31 to evaluate that They show the required laundry and shower facilities. Minor variations of the plan could be approved by the Director of Planning, and significant changes would come back to this body and to council. So staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to allow recreational vehicle park at Dairy Road, subject to the conditions that I just presented. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Commissioners, are there questions or comments?
You're saying that it was being annexed and the water's 5,000 feet away. Is that planning to be done before they begin to start this or no?
So yes, they're planning on extending the water. That was some of the pre-development meeting before the annexation. And I might defer to the engineer, in terms of the conversation she's had with TxDOT to put the water line down there right away down 53. But it would be necessary for that subdivision plat and building permits for that matter, to have that water in place.
It's not an if, like they have to get the water before they can get this running.
We can continue on, yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be kind of your critical path.
Yeah, okay, that was my question too.
This case requires a public hearing. We will now open the public hearing. If you wish to speak and are attending in person, please come to the podium. If you are viewing the meeting online, please virtually raise your hand. Provide your full name and city of residence for the record. Limit comments to 3 minutes, and we will have a timer for your reference.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Alan Lytle. Although I live here in Temple, I also manage the Little Flock Cemetery, which is just on the south side of 53 from this development. The creek that was referenced goes by this new development, plus by the cemetery. And I know Bell County does their very best to calculate the amount of square footage needed for sewer. However, as we have learned in the past few years, including this year, when we have excessive amounts of rain, such as we had this past year in May, and a couple of years ago, we had just way too much, the sewer in Temple backed up and came out on the street. I don't want the sewer from this project to back up and go into my cemetery. So I need assurances that they're going to require over and above the normal sewer limitation or septic tank requirements for this type of project, considering the number of individual houses, if you will, that are going to be put there. My other concern, and it's something I just worry about, is, as I said, I have my cemetery on the south side. This proposal for this area lends itself then to not allowing denial of another proposal on the south side, closer to my cemetery, closer to the other houses that are there. Because obviously the objection, not objection, but what they would say is that, well, you've already allowed one, so you got to allow another one, even though you don't have to. That's one of the things that they object. So this simply opens the thin edge of the wedge, allowing for more of these too close to my cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? We will now close the public hearing. If there are no more questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve item FY 24 41 ZC as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Carney and a second by Commissioner Smith to recommend approval of item 6 FY 24 41 ZC to City Council per staff recommendations. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carney,
Aye.
Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
We'll now move on to item number 7, FY 25 5 ZC. Hold a public hearing to discuss and recommend action on a conditional use permit to allow a recreational vehicle park on 29 plus or minus acres located in the David Metter Survey, abstract number 577, and John Cummings Survey, abstract number 178, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, generally located north of State Highway 36 and identified as Appraisal District ID 130698 and 193165. The case will be presented by Principal Planner Jason Deckman.
Good evening, again for the third and final time. This one will also follow the same schedule to City Council. So as you mentioned with the description, this is on Highway 36 shown in that cross-hatched area on the vicinity map. I've called out the lakes and the rivers and tributaries. It is relevant to this project as they, come down 317, cross 36, and eventually flow down into the lake. The applicant has stated that their purpose for this one is to try to draw some tourist traffic because you do have the proximity to the lake and recreation. As you see on the aerial photo, there are some existing ponds, but for the most part, it's kind of wooded brush and fields, otherwise undeveloped. You have homes on acreage to the west and to the north. We've also provided another Google Earth screenshot, grab the initial 29 acres that was submitted and kind of show that footprint, in proximity to the surroundings. So here's that 2-lane bridge coming over 36. When the lake's up, you can see people out here boating and fishing. There's some, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong with the history, that these were previously like quarries or gravel pits. I may be mistaken, but they are definitely in the floodplain right now, on kind of both sides of 36. So we've got some photos, showing the ground's eye view, showing some of it's open, but a lot of it's, mixture of trees, some cedar and other types. A lot of it, you don't have a lot of visibility from the road. And that's to, one of the council concerns about having RV parks being visible from a main road, which 36 is. And then there's the driveway. This is the residence directly to the north, near where the proposed entrance to the park would be. So this one is 137 spaces. Again, 2 phases, 67 in phase 1, 70 in phase 2. Their density is 6.63 spaces per acre. They also show a clubhouse, the covered pavilion, splash pad, and playground in the middle, as well as some open space along here. And then there's some area that's covered by a Corps of Engineer easement. So it's not in the floodplain, but it's what they call a flowage easement. So this area is also restricted from development. And in terms of the recreational amenities, they also show a number of trails that run through the development. As far as proximity to 36, we've provided some callouts based on the applicant's measurements. If council was leaning towards a 300-foot average distance, this is 800 to the corners because it veers back from the entrance. So the farther you get away from the entrance, the farther the development is from the highway. And it averaged to around 400 feet, but at its closest, it's 146. They're showing 1.3 acres for future commercial on the site plan. This is another one where water's an issue. Moffett Water Supply serves the area. There is city water available. This was also subject to an annexation that is in progress. Will be going to council on the same January 16th meeting, which would enable city water if they can work out the details of how to extend that. And Fire Marshal during the DRC review, wanted to be involved in, will it have hydrants? Will they have the pressure? Will this be a safe development? In this case, TxDOT is going to review those entrances because they are directly connected to a state facility. And their policy is typically to require the TIA. So it isn't a case of show us and maybe you don't have to do it. They're going to have to do it. Unless TxDOT says they don't, but I'll be surprised if that happens. There is, and I'm gonna go to the more detailed view. So I mentioned the open space in the trail here, the septic area to the east here. There's a solid fence all the way around. That's required by code. That's shown by this dark line here. Part of the buffering that the first gentleman spoke of during the public hearing, there's an abandoned right of way that that is not part of their development. So that will provide some buffering to the north. We do show the main entrance, and same thing where the dumpster is right here. So there's the ability for that solid waste truck to have the straight pull. The future commercial is down here. They're showing that secondary entrance. You know, one of the things that TxDOT will evaluate that is based on the speed limit of State Highway 36. What's the spacing requirement? If the TIA says that that entrance needs to be pushed further down, then this site plan may change. But that wouldn't necessarily require it coming back to this body or council, because it's being directed by the state. And it doesn't change the intent. The intent is to have those two entrances. So if there is an emergency, the guests can depart, the first responders can get into it. It's an old Army saying, if you make it too hard for the enemy to get in, you make it hard for yourself to get out. So this will provide that peace of mind that you do have a backup. One of the things that they're showing that is unique on this one goes through this flowage easement with their recreational space is that trail. So you do get into the floodplain, and the Corps of Engineers has a wilderness or wildlife management area over towards the creek. So there will be a trail that would connect for recreation. So even though the park is fenced, and this is where you've got the trail for folks could go down to those ponds, dip their toes, do some fishing. So it does lend itself to that kind of recreational tourist nature. And they're also exceeding the recreational space that Chapter 31 requires. We've got the table here showing you that based on the 20 acres that'll be within the boundary of the park, they would be required to provide 1.67 acres. They're showing 2.13. So again, they're exceeding that standard. So thoroughfare plan, they're on Highway 36. There's no other requirements, and just wanted to show you the floodplain. This was a good slide to put another map on. So it does show you that creek is floodway and flood hazard, both the, what people call the 100-year and 200-year floodplain. You're not going to get any other development in there.
So can you go back to that? The blue area, that's where they won't be able to develop?
That's
Like
correct.
the tan area too.
Right. So we're on that, just about, this is, if you follow this angle line here, that's up vertex right there. So you leave the park and very quickly you're into, floodplain. It's
Yeah. So we kayaked all through that back in like May, June, like that was all underwater.
Right.
So I'm looking at the map, trying to figure out like where exactly that is,
Yeah.
because it's
And
gonna
they've
be
got
underwater.
they've got some space. I can go back to the Google Earth too. It shows you.
Jason, just clarify that the 500-year floodplain is more of like a yellow light to
Yeah,
the red light.
correct.
100-year floodplain where you can't build a 100-year without a development,
Lomer.
a floodplain development permit or an adjustment of flood maps. The FEMA 500-year is more of just a warning that it can be developed.
Do you know like the impact of it? Like, does having something developed there obviously means if that's not just brown, there's a lot of concrete, the water is gonna run, it's not gonna soak in. So does that change the floodplain? Does every development, does that change the floodplain?
It's going to change how the water runs off of that property. And I'll defer to the engineer when we get to the public hearing. I think that's a question for the engineer, unless you want to have me to come up now. Could certainly address, how those calculations, the one thing that's different from the last one, they're not showing the detention area on this one. So maybe, would you please?
And Jason or Tiffany, this might be a question. The details of this packet, of this presentation are not in the packet. They were when I looked at my desk, like it was like 190 pages, but for some reason on the packet now, it stops at the last one that was on Dairy Road, and then does just a few pages of this presentation, then it goes to Cheryl's. I don't know why it's not there, but it was when I looked at it this weekend, so I'm not sure.
Well, there were some changes that were
Prime Gov.
supposed to be, yeah.
Apologies for that.
Just FYI, I mean, because I was trying to go back and look,
I really appreciate you letting us know. Thank you.
if you can make sure they're on there later, but yeah.
No, thank you. I
Absolutely.
apologize.
It's not 190 pages.
Well, it was, but on the, what I looked at this weekend, it might, I'm pulling 190 out of the air, but I mean, it was definitely more pages than 86.
I only got 86 on my link.
Yeah, what I looked at this weekend, it had more on there for some reason. It didn't have this presentation on there, is what I'm saying.
Correct. It's not on there right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Lena Chate, Belton Engineering. I just want to clarify something about what's developable here and what's not. So the entire tract, the mother tract, is about 136 acres. Now, the 136 acres, a big part of that is a floodplain, and everything except where the RV parks are shown is within what's called a flowage easement. So that flowage easement, we cannot develop anything within flowage easement. Nothing is allowed. The only thing that the Corps of Engineers would allow within flowage easement would be the lateral lines from septic and the secondary access, the secondary road access. But we're not allowed to put RV park, RV spots. We're not allowed to put roads. Not allowed to put definitely houses, nothing. So that's why we took the only portion out of this 136 acres and we said we're going to create some, we're going to create an RV park to enable people to use the rest of the recreational land, because it will remain recreational forever. It cannot be developed.
One question, were you able to speak to that man under the trees? You'll be able to help him out with that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when time comes, we will coordinate all that.
She has a question for you.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open.
Well,
Oh,
I'm sorry. No, I mean, I wanted to address your question when you had it. So back to death by PowerPoint is the traffic analysis. Same comparison for the afternoon peak hour, fewer pads generates fewer trips. In this case, it's 56, 78, and 136 if it were to be single family homes. State Highway 36, major arterial, 20 to 40,000 daily trips is your average capacity. Carrying 13,760 as of 2023. So it's still below capacity. But we are seeing growth out in this area. And we did the safety analysis along State Highway 36, 66 crashes total, one fatal. That was the one that made a lot of news last summer when the truck carrying the oversized load had to take evasive action for a driver that didn't yield and ended up with fatality, which is very unfortunate. And that's shown in red right there by the clover leaf. Other common factors were speeding, the intersection, you do have the clover leaf. There's a lot of conflict points emerging. So that does generate more crashes, as well as the intersection up here with Moffett Road. See a cluster of about 16 crashes there. And 15 distracted driving was the other factor. What we also did, since it is nearby, the concern is with the RV vehicles. They do drive differently. We have a test case. We have Briar Flats. It came in several years ago. Do we have data that shows there's a pattern of crashes connected with an RV parks? Now, this is one data point. If I was really to do the science, I would want more RV parks, to support the theory. But what I'm not seeing is, you see the entrance here on the detailed area. This is an older aerial, but you can see where the entrance lines up. I'm not seeing crashes over the last 5 years at that entrance. I'm seeing them off Triple Heart Lane to the south. I pulled the polygon in and didn't grab crashes from the intersection because I would have shown more crashes at Cedar Creek and FM 1237. And in this case, it wasn't left turn, failure to yield, vehicles being rear-ended. It was speeding, distracted driving, and 5 animals on the road. So if there's any confusion about that part of 317 being in the country, it's in the country. But we're not seeing that pattern that I would connect with slow moving vehicles pulling out into traffic. So we did send 5 notices out to owners within 200 feet. No notices returning the agreement. Did receive a phone call that resulted in the resident sending me an email. She said she lives up further up 36 down Moffett Road behind the Cefco. So a little ways up the road. And she disagreed. That email is included in your packet. Concerns were primarily the traffic on the 36. And then the newspaper did print the notice of the public hearing on December 26th. So this is another CUP, same rules apply. We've shown you the site plan and we're going to show you that same proximity map based on the council guidance. In this case, the closest development is the Corps of Engineer campground over on the river. It's a half mile away, but you can't get there from here. You have to go all the way up Moffett Road and then come back down. Driving distance, it's 2.3 miles. Briar Flats, I just showed you that one. It's about 1.7 miles. I highlighted this for a reason, so I wouldn't mess it up. It's 1.2 miles away straight line, 2.9 miles away by road for the Briar Flats. So in terms of the proximity to the other existing RV park. And then the same map showing the city of other developments. This has the same partial compliance for utilities because of the water. So that is one common factor. Once the annexation is complete, that does open up the possibility of extending water. It's 5,000-6,000 feet to the south, closer to the Army Reserve Center, National Guard drill facility down there. That's about where our water lines end. So they would have to figure out whether that's feasible to extend. The safe and convenient movement of traffic, that's going to be addressed by the turn lanes and the entrance and reviewed by TxDOT for the connection to State Highway 36. And the other landscaping, screening, and lighting are all yes. The conditions are predominantly the same. Requiring turn lanes at the connection to 36 and confirmation with TxDOT. The difference here is that we don't have to go down to the nearest intersection with State Highway 53 because they are right on the TxDOT roadway. And we're requiring the secondary emergency access road. It wasn't a requirement on the other one because it wasn't feasible, but they are offering to do that here. So we're going to bake it into the ordinance. And, the subdivision plat will be required. And just like any of our site plans, the minor variations, minor changes can be approved by the Director of Planning. Significant changes would come back to you and to council for your review. And staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to allow the recreational vehicle park at tax ID 130698 and 193165 on State Highway 36, subject to those conditions I just presented. And I'm going to take a drink of water and take any of your questions.
So you're saying the annexation and the water lines are all the way up at the military?
Yes, sir.
How many miles away is it? That's a pretty good.
It's just about a mile.
Okay.
I said, I
thought it was further,
thought it was further.
Our city water lines end right down here on Airport. We see where these 3 lots are. I think they may reach down to those. There's a liquor store.
Liquor store, that's where
Yeah.
it ends.
So I think that it probably ends right in that area. But it's about another mile to get across the Cloverleaf, the creek, and then up to this development. As it is, they'd be in Moffett Water Supplies area. So the question be, is that?
It could go with Moffett Water.
If they have the capacity. If they don't and they need it, then they're gonna have to figure out how to get city water. That's gonna be something that we'll get into details of that during the subdivision plat review.
Okay.
But I mean, to your question, that is why the condition number 4 of the subdivision plat emphasizes the fire
Fire.
safety requirements for not necessarily for the, drinking water and showers, the fire safety.
And Tiffany, that disagreement wasn't on,
No, we'll,
I mean, you said it was off behind the Sefco, so it's pretty far away. so-
Yeah, the person.
And it looks like some of the residents are here, so.
Mhm. Yeah, and we've received, no, sorry, it was just the one we received today.
yeah,
No, it's not there.
yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the packet online, but, we'll figure that out and get it fixed.
Commissioners, are there other questions or comments?
Surprises me that like it already gets to this stage without knowing if you're gonna be able to get water to it or not, but that's just a process thing. I don't, that's just a comment on mine. You seem surprised by that too.
Mhm.
You think that'd be like one of the first things?
Well,
you would
when
think
we
about,
said
like, why
military
you build
base and
property
the
figure
liquor
it out,
store,
but
I'm
I
like,
didn't know
wow,
for
that's a
sure, like where your water's
Long
gonna
way.
come
Yeah.
from, but that's what I'm learning. So, that's all I got.
But it is up to the developer to get the water to the site.
Lena, do you have any comments, Lena, on that or? Nope.
There most likely will be conflict, but
Okay.
we will look for that.
The case requires a public hearing. I'm sorry, I tried to cut you short, Jason. We will now open the public hearing. If you wish to speak and are attending in person, please come to the podium. If you're viewing the meeting online, please virtually raise your hand. Provide your full name and city of residence for the record. Limit comments to 3 minutes, and we will have a timer for your reference.
Hi, my name is Sally Coleman. I live at 9876 West State Highway 36. I live right next to the property that they're talking about developing, which I'm not against them developing. But there's a lot of issues that go with this development. For one, it is a 2-lane highway. There is no shoulder on this road. There is it bottlenecks from 4-lane to 2-lane, which is dangerous because you don't know how many times people have rushed to get to that 2-lane. And that where they're talking about turning off for the mobile homes or the RVs is right there, right past over the bridge. The bridge is in bad shape. I've been talking to the Texas Department about fixing my driveway because I have an inch gap. So if I'm to go onto the highway, my car goes boom, 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 and it stalls, and I've got cars coming both ways. So that's another issue. I've been talking with them for about a year now about trying to fix this, but I didn't know that this was going on about this mobile home park going in. Maybe they're waiting for that to come in. You're also talking about my easement to my property. You're talking about using that as an entrance to this mobile home, this RV park. So my neighbors, their house is first, ours is further back. So we will be on the back side, well, our front of our house will be facing the mobile home park. So how is that going to affect my area, my property when I go to sell it? Is that going to increase is it going to help my value or not? Okay, we're not in city limits. So if we have to call like the sheriff's department, if we have anything going out there. Also, I'm running out of time, but on one side of our property is the core land, which you were talking about. People hunt out there. Are they going to be prohibited from hunting out there? And because you're talking, they hunt even in front of our house, where this development is going to be. Is all that going to be taken away that no one can hunt from 317 to to the core land that's right up against our land.
Jason, can
So-
you pull that up?
So also you were talking about if my husband was wanting a privacy fence. Well, when we had the tornado back in May, I was here, he was elsewhere, but we have all the land, the farmland up above us. All that water comes raging right down through there. I had a like a little river. I've never had that before. And it just came like all the way down and it washed some of my driveway away and washed all the way down to the property that they're talking about. So is there gonna be like some kind of drainage if they put this wall up? Because I don't want it to erode my place. So there's a lot of issues with this. I don't mind them building it, but there's a lot of other things that are entailed with this. And my main thing is, like you said, there's people coming in and going, but that highway is so busy and we have 18-wheelers with great big pipelines running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all day, every day, even on the weekend sometimes. And I don't know if that's gonna affect the area, but there's a lot of things to consider and I just wish that y'all would, put a little bit more into it than what's actually being said.
So a couple of questions. Is your house the one that's right off of Airport right at the front, or is it the one at the
No,
back?
it's in the back.
At the back.
It's the one at the back. Okay.
Mhm.
I think topographically, your property is higher than the property we are discussing here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That water rushes down. It rushes through our property onto all that property.
The land is drains off into the river down there,
Mhm.
and we get all the farmland up here. I've seen it.
Sir, let me,
I'm sorry.
that way it gets picked up for the record when we're doing minutes.
Oh.
Okay. Oh. No, where we're at, all the farmland, it comes down into our property and then trickles down into the river, which is Old Cedar Creek. And I've seen it where it flooded 317.
Yeah, if
About-
you've been there 30 years, you saw that flood there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've seen it flood twice since I've been here. And she's just worried about, what she was talking about, the flooding and all that and the drainage. I don't know, what they can do about it.
Because this last big flood, did those flood? 317 didn't flood that time, did it?
No, it came up to
That
State
came up to
Highway
it, but it didn't do
36.
as
It
bad.
came up to State Highway 36. But then it stopped right there.
Okay. I remember when I was a lot younger that it did actually flood.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't remember that year, but
When it went over the dam.
Yeah,
and
when it
went
went over
early
the dam.
90s.
yeah, it was 90s. Yeah.
And it was 92.
Okay.
When it flooded real bad. And then this one, when we had the hurricane, that's when the lake was down so low, it filled it up within a matter of hours.
So what did this do recently with that last tornado? I mean, as far as it came up to 36, but what did this property do?
My property or their property?
Both.
It just, it flooded our property out. And then, it drained off into their property. So everything that they're gonna be putting in, they have to consider the drainage coming off of these farmlands.
Cause there's a gully there on that property that she's talking, that they own, that they bought or going to, there's a gully in there, so.
I got some pictures here on my phone I can show you.
And also, we are the last people, we are on the last of the line of the Moffett Water Department. So if they're gonna build that, are we still gonna be the last people that are gonna be on the line?
No,
No.
no.
Wait, can you come back up and talk
What impact
some of
does
those
that
questions?
have Being the last on the water line.
We have
Can you hand him that?
I don't know, a pipe that they come out and they flush whenever they have any issues with the water. So they have to come and flush out the line and we're the ones that they flush the line out on. So we also use that as a fire hydrant too, but
Okay.
So that helps us out, but still,
And
it's.
so the engineer is here. She can answer some of those questions that you just had. So
Oh, okay. Thank you. Lena Shtay, Belton Engineering. Of course, drainage is an issue over here. I mean, the whole thing is floodplain and flowage easement. And there is a well-defined low point that goes east to west on this property, and it drains down into the yep, that's it. That's where we left it as green space. So basically what we're trying to do here is whatever low point we have, we're gonna be leaving them alone. We're not gonna be changing the runoff pattern to prevent flooding, because that's the last thing we wanna do. However, when we get into the design aspect, we're gonna be looking at all the water that comes from everywhere down into this property, and all that will be mitigated and designed properly within the construction plans, and it will be looked at very closely to make sure that we don't flood. I mean, this is a very, very, very costly development, and we're gonna look into great details to make sure that it's safe for this development and for everybody around them as well.
The septic design, that's taken all of the drainage into consideration
Yes,
so that it's adequate as far as the septic spaces.
yes, and just FYI, the septic for RV parks, lately, Bell County Health Department been looking at it even closer, so it has to be designed a certain way, and after Bell County Health Department bless the design, it still has to go to TCEQ to make sure it meets their requirements. So it goes through two entities before it's fully approved.
Okay.
and as of right now, your thought is that Moffett Water is your first
Correct,
contact to see if that would work.
correct,
Obviously, if that didn't, it would be a while before the annexation comes in to get the water down there.
correct. Yes, correct.
So what she's kind of answering for you is that she's saying that there's gonna be a lot, this is just phase one. There'll be another phase, a construction and a plat phase, correct me if I'm wrong, if anything I'm saying, is that it will really detail in the drainage, and if anything, it could help you if, God willing, you're living still, that there's more, there's more, another big flood that comes, that it's gonna help with that.
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that is correct.
Right, so we're really in kind of phase one of what's gonna be, you're gonna probably be contacted again, right, Jason, I guess, when
Yes.
that next.
If I could just skim over the process. This function is a zoning.
Right.
Y'all are recommending approval of this use.
The zone.
The subdivision plat will look at the drainage. They'll provide their drainage calculations. Our engineers will review those. The fire marshal will look at the water capacity. Engineer's gonna look at how the roads and the pads are constructed. Then it goes into, building permits. So then there's additional review from our building officials and plan review, for the electric, the plumbing, the vertical construction of the clubhouse and the toilets and the showers. So there's gonna be several layers of.
Got it. So he said it much better as far as formally, but there's a lot of, several more steps that are gonna be going on to make sure that this property will work.
Correct.
Okay,
We're addressing zoning only.
thank you.
Are there other questions or comments?
Yes, I have one. For the ingress egress of coming in and out of there, where is their entrance gonna be at?
That'll be determined with TxDOT. It's
Well,
a state
they're shown
highway.
on the site plan.
Proposed.
And this goes to that subdivision review process. So if you're looking at that map where that's gonna align with that driveway and that easement.
Well, that driveway, was abandoned when I got that, when I bought that property. Now, it's been abandoned for 30, about 50 years now.
Mhm.
They're not gonna be coming up there, are they?
No, they're from 36 to their southern corner. So if you're looking at the map, your property sits in the back up at the top of the map.
Yes.
When the subdivision gets reviewed, and this is, I might put Mr. Nuttall on the spot. One of the review factors during the subdivision plat is adjacent properties and existing easements. It may turn out that the applicant's gonna have to negotiate terms of the easement to have access from the property to State Highway 36. But it's just gonna be for that 150-foot entrance road. And Kyle, before I start doing your job and saying things that get me in trouble.
Well, it will be evaluated at that point.
Mhm.
The big thing with this being on Highway 36, the plat does get sent out to TxDOT for their review to confirm that it's where the entrances are where TxDOT wants it. So it's currently proposed in that corner. Whether or not it ends up in that corner will depend on what TxDOT thinks will work. But it'll deal with boundary lines. They aren't allowed to just go across other people's property. They will have to enter into the TxDOT right of way from their property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Lytle, live here in Temple. I'm just a little confused about the process. This area has not been annexed into the city yet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So,
I'll split hairs. Most of it hasn't, but some of it's already in.
so the part that hasn't, that some of this is going to be on. If it fails annexation, what happens to this CUP?
I can answer that one for you.
I figured you could.
So we do as much as we can concurrently just to kind of speed things up. So we do have a portion, the front portion along Highway 36 is already in the city. They have requested annexation for the rest of it. So that will be considered on the same meeting as city council will consider the CUP. And so this just being a recommendation, if the annexation isn't approved, the CUP essentially goes away.
Thank you, Kyle.
I wanted to give a little bit more detail on the entrance as well. So you see on the aerial where that driveway comes in that the gentleman was talking about and leads all the way back. So there's that easement that runs west of what would be the RV park. But you see their property follows this hash marked area, that dark black boundary. The neighbor's property kind of has this cutout. So this is all TxDOT property. So that would be, again, that's that access easement that's worked through with the subdivision process to get the access from TxDOT, but also ensure that if there's existing access, if there's an easement in place, that's protected, it would carry through. So what Kyle said is exactly right. TxDOT is going to have a lot of say in dictating specifically where that entrance comes onto Highway 36.
Thank you. We have no input with TxDOT. That's their decision.
We can talk to them.
Well, we
they
can make our
decide whether to listen.
recommendation.
We don't have any legal weight to
Thank you.
throw at them.
Any other questions or comments? We'll now close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve item FY -25-5-ZC as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Carney and a second by Commissioner Smith to recommend approval of item 7 FY -25-5-ZC to City Council per staff recommendations. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carney, Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
We'll now move on to item 8, FY 24 41 PLT. Consider and recommend action on the final plat of Namus Temple Townhomes, a 1.63 plus or minus acre, 22 lot, 1 block, 1 tract residential subdivision, being a replat of Lot 2, Block 1, Baker subdivision replat number 1, with a developer requested exception to UDC section 8.2.1 and 8.1.3 related to cul-de-sacs and dead-end fire apparatus roads to allow a hammerhead street sign located in the CS Masters Survey, abstract number 550, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 202 South 41st Street. The case will be presented by Principal Planner Cheryl Maxwell.
Okay, thank you, Chair Krause. As mentioned in the description, there is an exception requested, so City Council approval is required, and it's scheduled to move forward to their January 16th meeting. So this shows the location of the property. It's near the intersection of 41st Street and Avenue D. And here you have a zoomed in view of the property. It's currently undeveloped. The surrounding property, you have a mixture of residential uses and commercial buildings. So the plat comprises 1.63 acres, 22 lots are proposed, 1 block and 1 tract. They're proposing a townhome development. The property is zoned general retail district, so this use is allowed in general retail, subject to these dimensional standards and setbacks, and all requirements are satisfied. Tract A, shown here, is actually kind of a T-shaped property. It's 0.428 acres. This portion is 33 feet wide, and then the other portion over here is 42 feet wide. There's several uses proposed in this access easement. One will function as a private access easement. So you have 2 private streets. You have Nama Way, shown here, which will have a 27-foot pavement width, and then you'll have Rojas Avenue, which has a 20-foot pavement width. There'll also be a private detention pond here at the northern portion of the tract, an overflow parking area, public utilities that will include city water and sewer easements on this portion of Nama Way. And Tract A will be owned and maintained by the Homeowners Association, except for the public water and sewer. With regard to the water and the sewer, there's an existing 6-inch water line along 41st Street, and there's an 8-inch sewer line also along 41st Street and along the south boundary of the property. The applicant will be extending 6-inch water and sewer lines into the subdivision. And regarding access, the property is frontage on 41st Street, which is a local street. Currently, there's 27 feet of pavement and 59 feet of right of way. Again, Tract A has a T hammerhead design. This requires a UDC exception. The solid waste department and our fire department have no objections to this design, since there's no homes along the hammerhead portion and there's adequate room to turn the vehicles around. So the exception is supported by staff. With regard to sidewalks, there are no requirement for local streets. However, the applicant is providing a 5-foot sidewalk along the 41st Street frontage and also 4-foot wide sidewalks along each side of Nama Way. And the HOA will be responsible for the ownership on the 4-foot sidewalks. The park fee requirement for this is $225 per dwelling unit, which totals to $4,950. And this is in the Temple ISD. For the comp plan, this is the future land use is regional commercial, which basically limits residential uses to apartments. The townhomes, or typically a townhome development, is very similar to multifamily use in the style and the density, but it does offer an opportunity for home ownership. So we feel the proposed residential subdivision aligns with the intent of the future land use plan. On the thoroughfare plan, there are no roadways in this vicinity, so there's no conflict with the plat. And on the trails master plan, again, there's no trails shown in this vicinity and sidewalks are not required. However, the applicant, as I mentioned, is providing a 5-foot sidewalk along 41st Street and interior sidewalks. And there's no conflict with the mobility master plan. So the Development Review Committee reviewed this plat on July 22nd, and it was deemed to be administratively complete on December the 18th. And we do recommend approval of this plat and the developer requested exception to allow the Hammerhead Street design. And again, what you'll be doing today is making a recommendation to the city council with action scheduled for January the 16th. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, are there questions or comments? There are no questions or comments. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept FY 24 41 PLT as presented by staff.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Smith and a second by Commissioner Rowe to recommend approval of item 8 FY 24 41 PLT to City Council per staff recommendation. Tiffany, may we have a vote?
Commissioner Morales,
Aye.
Commissioner Jurassic,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carney, Commissioner Prager,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Chair Krause.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the motion carries.
Is there any further business to discuss? The meeting is closed at 6:53 PM.